Okay. We're delighted to see you all here for our Sunday afternoon gathering, global gathering. And I don't know what's going on today, so I can't introduce whoever the speaker is. So Wendy's going to have to introduce the speaker.
Okay, everybody, we've got Mr. Tom T. Moore with us, who is an award-winning speaker and author. For over 25 years, he's been president and CEO of his own international motion picture and TV program distribution business. Very valuable business indeed. And he's based in Dallas, Texas. Now, Tom is the author of several books: The Gentle Way, a self-help guide for those who believe in angels. And he's going to be telling us about his exploration of the gentle way. So, Tom, over to you if you'd like to tell us a little bit more about yourself and the gentle way.
Sure. I don't have time to go into it too deeply today, but I'm also a telepath. And this happened to me in 2005 when my wife and I attended a Improving Your Psychic Abilities seminar in Sedona, Arizona, put on by Dick Sutphen, S-U-T-P-H-E-N. And I had been wanting to communicate with an Indian shaman, American Indian shaman, who had been channeled for me by Robert Shapiro, who's the author of about 25 or 30 books. And he had told me that my sole contract was not to support Robert, which I thought was very strange. And so finally, at this seminar, when everybody else was supposed to be doing automatic writing, I decided to see if I could contact the Indian shaman whose name was Reveals the Mysteries in English. And so he put us into an altered state. I said, Reveals the Mysteries, are you there? And he says, yes, I am, Tom. And I said, wow, this is really neat. And so so I went on to ask him, why I seemed to be the one that was really pushing, requesting benevolent outcomes. And he said, Tom, he said, you're an Indian shaman at the same time I am, which was in the mid-1600s. Your name is Stillwater, and you decided to incarnate into the 20th and 21st centuries to reintroduce people to the gentle way. So I got the name of my first book the very first time that I communicated with him. And I said, no, I'm a business guy. I have this international film and TV program distribution business, and I thought I'd be doing that till I retired. And he said, no, books. And so I wrote my first book within 90 days after speaking with Reveals the Mysteries. So that's how it all started. I publish a weekly free newsletter that's 11 to 12 pages long every single week, where people send me in questions to ask from all over the world. And I go into a meditative state and I receive what are called thought packets. Now, I'm going to, today, because I have a fairly short time, I'm going to give you my short presentation on the gentle way. So before I go to the presentation, I just want to mention some of the things that I did not understand, did not know when I started requesting benevolent outcomes 25 years or so ago. First of all, it is a modality that works perfectly. I'd never found a modality that worked perfectly for me. I'd tried all sorts of things, which I don't have time to go into today, including the law of attraction. And it just didn't work that great. But when I started requesting benevolent outcomes, it worked perfectly. I was later to find out that it automatically, slowly but surely, raises your vibrational level, which some people call the law. Some people call the ascension. And number three, it keeps you on your path, your soul path or your soul contract. And this is what you decided that would be the highest and best path for you to take throughout your whole life, for the biggest challenges, the biggest learning, and the biggest successes. So it keeps you on your soul path. So with that, we've got the Gentle Way books. Now I've got 3 of them now. And as you see, the Gentle Way 1 was my first one. The Gentle Way 2, the story continues, and the Gentle Way 3, Mastering Your Life. I was voted best self-help author for 3 straight years by Health Magazine because, again, this works fantastically well. So when you're requesting most benevolent outcomes, you say, I request a most benevolent outcome for. It could be something simple and mundane like your drive to work or your drive to the grocery store or whatever. And I always say thank you. I didn't when I first started. I was just testing and experimenting. So you don't have to say thank you because your guardian angel, who I've been told responds to these requests, does it out of love for you. But it's always nice. There we go. They're called MBOs. I tried BO for a while, but that doesn't work very well. It sounds funny. Okay. Webster's Dictionary, benevolent is doing or inclined to do good, kindly and charitably. Okay. That's your guardian angel will help you with the simplest little requests as long as it's on your soul contract. And that's important because it keeps you on your soul contract. So if as an example, you ask something that's not on the soul contract, then it doesn't, it just doesn't work. So let's see here. Now, you must request the assistance, and you must do it out loud. It must be benevolent not only for you, but for everyone connected with the request. It must be a request for you specifically. It must be said out loud or in writing. There is no limit on the number of times you can request benevolent outcomes. Trust in the process. Start with the mundane to build your trust and to make it a habit. Because if you think, oh gosh, my guardian angel is just too busy, I don't want to bother him or her. And in actuality, these are whole souls. They're golden light beings, I found out, and they take care of thousands and thousands of souls all at the same time in all the lives you're having on earth, which are on average 600 to 800. And when I say that it must be benevolent for not only you, but for everyone in the request, as an example, extreme example, let's say there's a soldier in Afghanistan. He can't say, I request a benevolent outcome to kill my enemy before he kills me. Instead, he could say, I request the most benevolent outcome for my drive from Kabul to my base or for this patrol. And lo and behold, his quote enemy is off somewhere else. So it's benevolent for everybody. Okay, samples of most benevolent outcomes. You can say, I request a most benevolent outcome for the perfect job for me. Thank you. And again, when you're saying these out loud, this creates an energy. And if you say these with energy, with emotion, it even works better. I didn't know that when I first started out. They'll work if you don't use emotion, but I've been told that it works much better the more emotion. You can also say, I request a most benevolent outcome for the perfect man, for perfect woman for me, whatever. Thank you. But keep in mind, when you start requesting these larger things compared to the mundane things that you can start requesting in your life, and you get this immediate feedback on that drive to work. Oh my goodness, I almost had a wreck and I missed it by a few seconds or whatever it happens to be, those are immediate feedbacks. When you start asking for the perfect job or the perfect mate or the perfect home, these things take a while, and so you have to allow time for all these things to happen. So, as an example, for that perfect mate, maybe that person is in a relationship right now and it has to end, or perhaps you need another relationship to prepare you for the perfect one. So but when you request these benevolent outcomes, it puts you on, it puts your guardian angel on notice to start working in your behalf. Now, for identity theft, you could say, I request a most benevolent outcome that my identity in all its forms be protected now and forever. Thank you. You've taken care of that. Again, traveling, drive to work, to the airport. At an airport, if you're going on a flight, you can say, I request most benevolent outcome to get through the security fast. I hadn't thought about that, but long ago, one of my readers said, Tom, when I went to the airport, I requested a benevolent outcome for getting through security and fast, and they opened up a lane just as I got to the person who was to direct me to the next line. You can request a most benevolent outcome for business each day. Now, that can be no matter what kind of business you're in. If you're a real estate agent, you can request a benevolent outcome for listings or to make a sale that day on a listing that you have. Even for, I've had several people that are in jobs where they receive tips, gratuities, and they would request it and would make 25 or 35% more than a normal average day. And then any kind of job in which you're on a commission or sales type business. At work, you can request a most benevolent outcome for a meeting with your boss, with the group that you're in, and if there's any abuse going on, request a benevolent outcome to report that abuse, whether it be to the boss, if it's the boss that's doing it, to their superiors, and let it go, because you will be protected. Now, we get into bingo and games of chance. I've found that sudden wealth, I've been told this because I kind of, I'm like everybody, oh, wouldn't it be great to win the lottery? Sudden wealth in all forms, whether it be winning a lottery, whether it be sudden a inheritance that suddenly comes to you, all types of things. Maybe a stock that you invested in suddenly goes bananas and goes up tremendously. Those types of things are soul contracts to learn how to handle sudden wealth. But there's a lot of sort of like lower things that can work. As an example, my family and I were on a cruise of the Caribbean, and I requested a benevolent outcome on the last day of cruise, where they have what's called a coverall, and you play bingo until you cover every single space on a card. And I had 5 cards, none of them were doing good at all, and I said, oh, well, it doesn't look like this is going to happen. And then suddenly I'd hit one, and then another one, and then another one, and another one. And finally I said bingo, and a 12-year-old boy sitting next to me also said bingo. I'm sure everyone thought it was my son, but it turned out to be another family. And so we split an $8,400 pot. That allowed us to take the cruise the following year, because there had been a a flood on another deck didn't affect us at all. And they gave everybody the option of 50% off their next cruise. So we got another cruise. Then I've had people that have won other large bingo pots, even larger than mine. And I've actually had a lady recently that emailed me from Canada, and they were going to lose their vacation house that had been in the family for years and years, but the taxes and everything were going to be so much that they could not afford to keep the family vacation house. She requested a benevolent outcome and won 1 million Canadian dollars, and that allowed them to keep their vacation house. So if you sort of ask for lower and suddenly you get higher, great, but at least you have a little bit better chance of maybe winning something. Now, I've had many people that have written to me talking about their dangerous, about being saved from a very dangerous situation. As an example, there was a lady in Kansas that had just moved to a farmhouse out in the middle of the prairie, and suddenly there was a tornado bearing down on her house. She grabbed her 2 kids, ran for the basement, and requested a benevolent outcome for their safety. The tornado literally lifted up and went over the house. Another lady wrote in and said that her daughter was in California at a town and was walking down the street at night, and a van with some men in it started following her. She requested a benevolent outcome for her safety, and suddenly a number of people came out of the house and the van drove away. She was positive that saved her. I know I've been almost in 2 wrecks that were so close, literally within one of the wrecks, I got within 6 feet of hitting a lady, and that was putting on the brakes as hard as I could put them on. And so there are ways that you can protect yourself every time that you drive or take a trip or whatever. So there's many ways that you can request benevolent outcomes. Okay. Now, the radian effect. What is the radian effect? It's I found that when you're requesting a benevolent outcome for, say, your drive to work, suddenly, as you're driving down, it feels like you're almost in a bubble. And it's like this bubble surrounds you and the other cars that are beside you. So it's like everyone is protected in this bubble. So I call it the radian effect. And it's it really works fantastically well. Okay, let's see. Now, benevolent prayers is what you say for other people, and I found it interesting in what I was hearing before I was to give my talk about everyone. You can say benevolent outcomes for other people. I found, and it took me a while to work on this because in my first book, I called them living prayers. And in the second book, I changed it to benevolent prayers so that it would sound, what you're saying sounds very similar to what you're saying for your own self when you're saying these specific requests for yourself, where you say, I request the most benevolent outcome for. Thank you. In this case, you say, I ask any and all beings to aid, comfort, and protect such and such a group of people. Or you can even say it for governments. I ask any and all beings to aid and assist all those to be elected who would make decisions in the best interest of the people of this country, the people of the world, and the planet. Thank you. So you can use it in all types of situations, whether it be, I just had everyone on my Facebook page say a benevolent prayer for all the people to be safe, all the beings to be safe during the California fires. And when I put these prayers not only in my newsletter but also on my Facebook page, I'll have hundreds of people that will be saying the same prayer. And I'm told that when everyone is saying the same prayer, it takes on this great energy that is 10 times more than the people that say it. So it's really amazing, the kind of energy. I'm told in the future, scientists will understand the power of the verbal word. Okay, that supposedly even these huge stones at the Giza pyramid or wherever were moved by chance and not by rolling on logs. So I ask any and all beings to do this. Now, the origin of the gentle way, I was discovered, actually it was about 12,700 years ago, because I had heard from Reveals the Mysteries that I was already requesting benevolent outcomes in the 1600s, and I wondered, how old is this modality? So I thought maybe you'd say 1,000 years or so. And I finally asked one day, and I was told, oh no, Tom, it dates all the way back to a life that you had on Atlantis. It was actually Poseidia, where you had 1 million people requesting benevolent outcomes. And you eventually, because of the warring that was going on between Poseidia and Aaron, which is the sons of Belial, that you migrated from Poseidia to Egypt with 25,000 of your followers. And that ties in with, if you've ever read the Edgar Cayce stories, where he was Rata and was brought out of banishment to deal with all the thousands of Atlanteans suddenly showing up. And that was my group. Now, some people want to know, what guardian angel, what name shall I call you? And you say this out loud. My guardian angel's name is Theo, but that's what I finally decided to call him, because he said, oh, Tom, he said, we're not very big on names over here. And first of all, you couldn't say our name, any of our names, because you don't have the vocal cords to do it. So you can call me Tom, Dick, or Harry, but Tom will be a little strange in your meditations. So just say out loud, guardian angel, what name shall I call you? And maybe you'll get a name immediately, or maybe it'll take a couple of weeks like it did me, and suddenly the name Theo popped into my head. I was just to discover much, much later that I'd called him Theo on many, many previous lives. Now, guardian angels, as I explained, are whole souls. They're golden light beings. There are a little over 1 million GAs, as I call them, and they prefer the name servants of the Creator. And but nobody would know what I was talking about, so I have to call them guardian angels. And these golden light beings, it was explained to me by Theo, the creator of this universe, put out a call, and Theo humorously said, Tom, he said, the job description was only golden light beings need apply. And this is because they would be taking care of not only one soul, but thousands. So as an example, Theo takes care of 27,000 or so souls, but each of our souls has 6 to 12 soul fragments having lives on earth. And each of that soul fragments has 600 to 800 lives on average. And There we go. And each life has 12 parallel lives or timelines. And we're on timeline number 6, if I can move there. So the 12 timelines are divided into 4s, 1 to 4, 5 to 8, and 9 to 12. And they're subdivided into 2s, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. As I say, we're coupled with 5. So we're in a middle frequency. We are influenced by not only the higher frequencies, which are 7 and above, but also lower frequencies. So you'll have dreams where you'll mix in all of these different timelines that you're living on right now. So anyway, that's the short version of what I normally do. If you'd like, I'll be happy to take questions now. I can continue to go on. I don't know if anyone can see this, but I do have a whole book on Atlantis and Lemuria, the Lost Continents Revealed. I also have a book called First Contact, Conversations with an ET.
Maybe I'd like to ask Sherry if this would tie in very well with her prayer registry.
Well, I'm happy to. I'm not sure how it ties in with the prayer registry. The prayer registry is a free service for all bereaved parents, in which each child who's registered has their name printed on their passing date on the prayer registry calendar. And then every year on their passing date, the prayer team, which consists of all the parents involved, receive an email that I send out the night before, giving them the name of all the children being held in prayer the next day. And the hope is that everyone will remember those children. They all want their child remembered on the day that their child passed. And the children come through and say that the prayers are like gifts of energy that move them forward, that whatever they're working on, they get a little burst of energy to continue with. And of course, as bereaved parents, it's a wonderful feeling to think we can still give our children a gift. And it organizes it so that many are praying for the children. Of course, it grows constantly, so I have to keep expanding the calendar to get more names in all the time. But the idea being that this goes on year after year and no one goes through that passing date, anniversary date alone, but knows they're supported by everyone else. I mean, I think, how does it tie in? It ties in because spirit's connected to everything, because we're spirit in bodies and they're spirit out of bodies, but we're all spirit. And so our thoughts for them give a gift of energy to them. And, I think that Tom is saying that when we make these benevolent requests, in a sense, it's just like spiritual healing. We are asking those we're connected with on a spirit level to help us to bring about positive changes in every area. I mean, I know people sometimes will contact me and say, well, I really need help with the purchase of a home. And, I always thought of spiritual healing as for the body or for the soul, but listening to what Tom has presented, it's just expanding it into any area where you feel you need support. Support will be given if it's asked, something that is of a positive nature for all involved. So I think it's fantastic.
And so I don't know about your spirit requests, but I would recommend it, and maybe everyone's doing this already, to say these prayers out loud, because that's where the energy comes, and not just think them. Because even people, if you're a member of a church, as an example, most of the time people in churches are just one person is saying a prayer and everyone else is listening along. And where it would be tremendously more effective would be if the person starts saying the prayer and everyone repeats it as they go through.
That's a good point.
I do have one question for you.
Sure.
People seem to have many different energies. So how does it work when those come together to get the same results? For one might be, sorry, I'm just getting awful feedback. For one might be more focused on one intention than the other. Will they get the same results?
Well, if they're saying the same, the same prayer, then that's the energy. Okay, it's not different energies. It's joining together with to have exactly the same energy at that point in time, and um, uh, that's why I say everyone should be saying the same prayer instead of one person saying one and one person saying another. They are two different energies when you do it that way.
Thank you.
That's the way it's been explained to me. As I say, when I ask these questions, I'm receiving what are called thought packets. And telepathy is just like earlier, the gentleman that was receiving messages from spirit that I watched when I came on at what time? An hour or so ago. And that's a form of telepathy, because everyone has the pineal gland in the back of your heads, and that acts as the receptor for all types of telepathic messages, whether they be, Aunt Susie suddenly is in trouble and you get the message, oh, I got to call Aunt Susie. That's telepathy. And ESP, they have all these names for telepathy, but they're all pieces of the same pie, so to speak.
Thank you very much for that. Sherry, did you want to ask again, say something else?
What I found very interesting is what he said about the soul, the choice in his life to do this work, that here he felt he was come into this life to do whatever he was doing, and then he met up, the shaman came to him in his mind and said, no, that's not really what your choice was to do in this life, and you need to follow through with that. In my own life, I wanted to be a dancer and a performer, and had I not fallen so ill, no question I wouldn't have gone into where these things started, what life, or in what in all these 600 lives where we took a certain commitment on, and we're willing to make sacrifices in this life in order to serve that commitment, and so
Right.
I saw someone wrote down, what about karma? And my sense is that it was my karma, in a sense, to become ill because I did make a choice, an agreement, that I would take on certain things in this life in order to serve the cause I committed to serve. And sometimes it's not always what you think is your first choice.
Right.
Or
Now, if I can,
please.
if I can give a little story on that. As I said, my business, originally we owned an international wholesale tour company and sold that, and then I went into international film and TV program distribution. And so I had been involved in a couple of small productions as a co-executive producer, but a friend of mine in Paris, who actually turned out to have lived like a block from where I was living at the time in Dallas, had sailed all over the world, and he wound up in Paris and met the love of his life, and that's where he lives. And so his connection was to a guy that had that was representing the estate of a writer by the name of Cheney, an English writer who had written spy novels in World War II. And so we set out. I set out to try and raise money to do a series of movies based on his novels. And I went all over the place. I mean, St. Petersburg, Russia, and Prague, and Budapest, and Cannes, and Paris. And every time I would get close to raising the money, something really weird would come along, and it would fall apart. And finally, one day I said, Theo, why is it that, I've been requesting benevolent outcomes all along, to raise this money to do these movies. Why didn't it come through? And he said, Tom, he said, had you gone down that path, you would never have reached the people that you're going to reach with benevolent outcomes and all in this life. And so that keeps you on your soul contract. I learned the hard way.
I totally get that. And I always learn the hard way. I'm far from a book learner. I fall flat on my face and then I go, oh, guess that wasn't the way to go. But clearly, I also learned the hard way that my soul had intentions that the little girl at 16 who came down with Crohn's disease did not have or was not aware of. And sometimes what seems like the utmost mistake or failure, in retrospect, was a very key, important thing, but you can't always sense it when you're going through. To you, it had to feel like a failure every time, and so you asked your God, why? Why every time I get so close to something foul up? But in essence, there was a higher calling that was directing it, but we're not always in touch with it.
I'm just fascinated with the whole idea of having different parallel lives and soul fragments.
On parallel lives, as I say, the lives on the lower timelines are harder than they are on the upper timelines. So as an example, on timelines 1 and 2, I have already died. I died from congestive heart failure, where on the higher timelines, I was able to keep it, I was able to discover it in time to have what's called an ablation, where they go in through your groin and come up and zap all these little places on your heart. And so I'm dead on those 2 timelines. On timelines 3 and 4, I never got out of the tour business. I stayed there. My wife and I divorced like 20 years ago, and we both remarried. On timelines 5, 6, 7, and 8, we've been married for 48 years. Now, on timelines 9, 10, 11, 12, it is non-physical. That's considered by our souls the perfect life. All the other lives are all compared against the timeline 12 life. On the upper timelines, when I was in college, the Vietnam War did not happen. They were able to settle their differences without a war. So instead of going through ROTC like I did and becoming a lieutenant and spending a year on top of a mountaintop in Korea at a hot missile site and then a radar base, instead of graduating with a degree in finance, I graduated with a degree in English and became a writer of sci-fi novels and eventually spiritual books. So, and I had a completely different life. I married my college sweetheart, moved to Colorado. We divorced, and I could have told me that was going to happen because she sent me a Dear John letter while I was in Korea. And so I continued to live, I think I understand, in Colorado. So you have all these different lives going on these different timelines that are all different frequencies.
Wow. Mind-boggling.
I certainly agree with the term mind-boggling, and as thinking of all these parallel lives. I'm not sure that I would want to carry that extensive record with me wherever I went, but it's interesting to hear. Yes, when I do work with the Akashic Records, when I look into a person's history, I'm searching for certain things that will help them to manifest in this lifetime and to become the powerful creators of their own experience here and now. And so my thesis is that they are creating karma, that we are all creating karma as we go along. And it's possible to clear things from the past so they won't impede us in the present. But I don't have as much emphasis as Tom does on all the details of the many lives that we have lived or are living. I know that I do go to maybe 3 evidential mediums who are not every month, but occasionally, whom I trust and who've shown evidence of being excellent. And from each of them, I've had the confirmation that my partner, who is in the Everlife now, has said, when I say, well, I'm getting so old, things like that, they laugh at me. And my partner always says, there's another, we have a version of you here with us. And so don't you ever worry about it. But we still are looking forward to the time when you'll be here with us too. So I don't need to understand it, but that's what I think is happening.
Yeah, something that I'll add to that. When you're doing an Akashic record, it's for this particular timeline, okay? And
That's right.
it's not for another timeline. So you're reading the record. So as an example, if let's just say you do something on this timeline that's not good, and you have to balance it on a future life, then maybe the upper timelines didn't have that problem, and so they don't have to balance it. It's you that has to balance. Now, I have a prayer that I say every single morning, and it goes, I ask any and all beings to aid, comfort, and support anyone that I've ever harmed, either physically, mentally, morally, spiritually, or emotionally, in any past, present, or future life, and ask any and all beings to come to the aid and comfort of the families and friends of anyone that I've ever harmed in any way, in any past, present, or future life. Theo tells me that doing that is tremendously important, that it affects all of your lives, whether it be one in the past or one in the future. And I have that prayer that's on my website at www.thegentlewaybook.com, and you can find it under signs, and you can print that prayer out. I will mention that on my website, again, www.thegentlewaybook.com, you can click on articles and articles and news. And I have archived every single weekly newsletter I've come out with since 2007. So you can see where I hit, so to speak, because I'm asked about a lot of things that are coming up in the future, and you could see where I've missed, because I'm told that anyone that does this type of work, no one's perfect. And I'm right out front. I can say, I tell everyone, you'll see where I miss on things, and I don't hide it. I don't say, oh, well, I say, there it is. And what I receive, I pass along the best that I can. And Theo says that that I'm anyone that does this work is affected by all sorts of outside influences, whether it be you're exhausted, you're tired, or whether it be planetary influences. And they told me, no, Tom, like Robert Shapiro will not channel, around the full moon or a few days before or after, things like that. And they've told me, no, we want you to do it every single time, no matter whether you're tired or not. Just keep slogging at it. And so I do.
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering, what made you passionate about this? What made you think like, okay, it's not only what my guide is asking me or what my friends is asking me, but it's really something I wish to do? Because even though I know from experience some things are to be done, you still can decide on which level you really are going to do it and when the time is right. So you can still communicate with those that help you, like, okay, right now might not be the best time to do it. Can I do it tomorrow, or can I do it in a week or in 2 weeks? It doesn't most of the time matter. Sometimes it does. What made you passionate about it to do it now?
Oh, well, I guess it's part of the soul contract. I've been told that I'm a very, very old soul. That this is my 1,005th life, and I thought, well, that sounds like. First of all, I said I must be a really slow learner, and they said, no, you keep coming back in order to push people along, and so I said okay, and then not too long ago I thought, well, surely I only have 3 or 4 left to go, and I was told I have like 95. That my sole interest are religions, and that I have been around for the start of every single major religion in the world, with the exception of 2, which are part of that 95 coming up. So that's just kind of like part of my personality, that I've been told this is very important, that what I'm putting in these newsletters and everything will be read long after I transition.
Just a quick one, Tom, for people who are watching this. Who or what answers prayer?
Okay. First of all, if it's a prayer specifically for you, typically it's handled by your guardian angel. That's what I'm told. If it's other types of prayers, there are another million whole souls that we call angels. All right, and Theo says, well, they're younger souls, but they're eager. That's the way he describes them, and they handle prayers from all over the world, and there's only, like I say, a little over 1 million of them, so they're busy bees, and they're handling these prayers on all the timelines, all at the same time, and all of our lives all going on at the same time, because all of our lives are taking place at the same time, because time is an illusion to us.
Right. I'm familiar with that concept. That's fascinating stuff. So I'm really interested in what you were talking about, chanting, about the power of the word, because obviously in Eastern religions, they do a lot of work on chanting to create a vibration. Is that something that we are neglecting in our society, the power of chants?
I suppose so. I mean, keep in mind in Western, even for I take a yoga class 2 times a week, and there are parts of our country where they say, oh, that's a religion, don't do that. And I've actually read where they were teaching kids yoga, and at the end they would say namaste. Now, if anybody, I'm sure just about everybody in this group knows that namaste is an old word that simply means the light in me honors the light in you, or my soul honors your soul. That's a beautiful concept. But the parents of these kids were so scared. Oh my God, they're teaching these kids some Eastern religion, that they refused to have their kids say namaste. So there's a lot of things that we need to be. The Hindu religion, I've been told, is the oldest religion in the world, and it's 58,000 years old. No one realizes, the Hindu people don't know that there's actually a man that I was a student of back 58,000 years ago that started the Hindu religion. Krishna was actually, he incarnated 77 times in a row, and the Indian, and that was over 30,000 years ago, and the Indian painters paint his skin blue because in actuality he developed a blue aura over the 77 lifetimes in a row. So there's a lot in the Hindu religion that has been lost over time. Just like Atlantis and Lemuria, they were lost because they destroyed themselves, and in 2 horrific wars that I detail in my book.
So what do you see is the most urgent need in our world today, Tom? You're a big picture thinker. Where are we going as a species, as a race, Are we in danger of just ending life on this planet?
No. When we hit the harmonic convergence of 1987 in August, we hit a level, a vibrational level, where it means that we will never destroy ourselves again. And we will never have a world war again. There'll only be regional conflicts, and there'll be fewer and fewer over the next 100 years. So it's, I've been told, it may not seem that way, Tom, but I was told you're going to get more benevolent. Now, I have on my newsletter now, I'm asking everyone to say every morning, I send white light and love to every single continent, every single island, all the rivers, lakes, and streams, and all the oceans and seas. And I release that white light to go where it's needed the most to light up the darkest corners of this planet. Thank you. So I ask people to say that first thing every morning. So we're sending light out. We're sort of, getting rid of that darkness and bringing light.
And are we going to be able to get on top of the pollution and the species degradation that has been happening?
Yes. Gaia has told me, she says, I could do it all myself. You may not like it, but I could get rid of all this pollution all myself. But we're called the explorer race, and we're supposed to be learning how to do all this, because what's happened, you have to understand, our souls all volunteered for what's called the Earth experiment. And basically the creator of this universe wanted to test the theory, or believed that we could work with negative energies. And it was only in recent times that I was told that there are 4 negative energies and 10 positive energies. All the rest of this universe and the billions of other universes that are out there all work with only positive energies. We're the only species in any universe that's been able to work with these negative energies. And now over the ensuing 100 or 200 years, slowly but surely, we will have to work with less and less and less negative energy. So the goal of the reason our souls volunteered for this, number one, was to fast track the raising of our vibrational levels. And then number two, this is something that's never been done in any creation, any universe. Our souls are going to meld together one day in the future, and we're going to take over running this universe for the creator, and the creator will be going to a higher level that it doesn't even know what the higher level is yet. Now, that's the way it's been explained to me.
It's fascinating.